Hi there, I'm Jamie Taylor. Welcome to Your Health Matters, brought to you by Kingman Regional Medical Center, your community-owned, not-for-profit hospital. This program focuses on healthcare issues and questions that you might have, and we hope you'll find some answers right here in this program. I've got a great guest today, so I hope you'll stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Welcome back to Your Health Matters. My guest today is Dr. Kenneth Jackson, better known as our country baby doc. It's great to have you on the show, Dr. Jackson.
Great to be here.
Thanks. So, you've been in Kingman for a number of years now. When did you first come here?
Came here Labor Day in 1991.
Okay, so what is it? You're going to make me do the math. No.
This is 21st year.
Wow, that's amazing. So you've seen a lot of growth and changes of Kingman.
Huge changes in the community and huge changes at the hospital,
right,
too.
Yeah, because how big was the hospital when you first came? Do you remember?
Boy, that was,
about 70?
That was 3 or 4 renovations
right.
ago, and it was when we still had grass and trees on campus.
Instead of buildings?
Yeah, instead of buildings. And they had a functional medical staff of maybe 15.
Wow.
15
I
to 20
didn't realize
physicians.
that. And now we're like almost 200, pretty close to 200, I think.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I think it's like 190 is on medical staff now.
And there's probably, how many of those, I don't know how many of those are here much of the time or often, but.
Yeah, I mean, obviously some are on rotation and come out, but I think that there's, over 60 now are employed physicians of Kingman Regional.
Yeah,
right?
It was a very, very small, close-knit group.
Right. Well, and you've played a major role in that growth through the years. Maybe you have. That's okay.
I know that. I mean, I know that after I came, I've been able to attract a fair number of physicians that came to Surbat Medical.
Yeah. And I think because Kingman obviously was smaller when you were there, first came, and as we've grown, we're still a small community where people know each other, and word of mouth is probably one of the most important forms of advertising that there is out there still. So when patients have a good experience, they tell their friends.
Yeah, and Kingman's the largest place I've lived in the last 35 years.
Wow, really? So you're used to smaller communities.
For 5 years on the Apache Reservation on the eastern part of the state, and then 10 years just off the reservation in Pinetop Lakeside, over in the White Mountains, and then over here.
Okay. And before that, before you became a doctor, where did your story start?
I was born in East Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
My father was with the Atomic Energy Commission and later with Union Carbide. And so we moved to western Colorado when I was 8.
Oh, okay.
And my mother and brother still live in Grand Junction. That's where I moved to. And I grew up there, went to high school there, went to college at the University of Colorado.
So when did you decide you were going to be a doctor?
I didn't know what I was going to do. I was pretty sure I was going to do something postgraduate.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't decide until the middle of my junior year in college.
Really?
And then I had to scramble and get a lot of different classes that I hadn't taken to get all the science prerequisite classes to go to med school.
Okay. And then now you're both OB/GYN and family practice. I mean,
it's probably the other way around.
Okay.
Family practice, and I do
OB/GYN.
and do some gen. I do not do any gen surgery.
Okay.
But it's
the baby doctor.
About half my practice is. Close to half of it is adult medicine. I do certainly do kids and newborns, and then another almost half of it is obstetrics.
Okay. So when you went to college, when you went on to medical school, had you decided you're going to do family practice?
I had no idea what I was going to do. I went to Baylor Medical School down in Houston, and then I interned in New Orleans at Charity Hospital.
Oh, okay.
And when I was there, I did a rotating internship, and I had enough for a while. And so my plan was just to go out, and I went out and traveled around for a few months and then got a job at a migrant health clinic. Back then, you could go practice medicine after an internship. my plan was to go do a residency, but after 1 year working in a migrant health clinic north of Denver, I came down to the White Mountain, to the Fort Apache Indian Reservation. And at that point in time, family practice was just coming in as a specialty, and I was able to, from working in the government, and I was able to grandfather in. And so the last year that you could as an MD, I became board certified by doing a certain amount of hundreds of hours of continuing ed and taking the exam, and that was in 1978.
Okay.
And then I've recertified every 6 years since then.
Okay. Okay. Well, so you're talking about being on the reservation, and you were there for how long? 6 years?
5 years.
5 years.
5
Okay.
years.
And even after you've moved here to Kingman, you still work very closely with the Native American people. Obviously, in Supai, you become known for the country doctor that rides his horse down to Supai and visits the village down there and gives health care to the people down there.
The 5 years in White River on the Fort Apache Reservation were probably very joyful. Lots of work. What we did with 5 people, they now do with 22 or 24.
Wow. Yeah.
That's how many primary care physicians have over there now.
Wow.
For a community that hasn't grown that much bigger. But it was sort of like frontier medicine. We were it. There was and it was a it was a very, very very, very invaluable experience for me, and I have always enjoyed taking care of Native Americans. And when I came over here, I was able to continue. I go out to Peach Springs a couple times a month and do prenatal clinics, and I go down in the canyon to Supai once a month. And it just, when I go there, it sort of reminds me of what I was
and back to your roots
when I was
almost?
I was in my late 20s practicing over there.
And so I'm sure most people here in Kingman, though, know that you're an author and have probably read your book, but that book was based on a lot of your experiences, right? I mean, I know it's fiction, but
it is fiction, but it's there's a lot of autobiographical stuff.
Right.
And I tried to take things that were sort of personal to me and make them more universal, so that people could relate to them. And so there's a lot of the characters are purely fictional, but an awful lot of them, including the main character, have a lot of things that I experience, recognize, know.
Well, I think that makes a difference. You can, a reader can tell that about the author, whether it's just something they've made up or if it's something that you've come up with from personal experience. And the name of the book, Manifest West. And I think you can even buy it here in the KRMC's gift shop. You have them there.
KRMC gift shop, or at Hastings, or it's on Amazon too.
Okay, Amazon.com. So I read it myself, and I gave it as gifts to both my granddaughters who are big into horses and to healthcare. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah. So, and you're working on a second book.
The first one took about 30 years. Oh. The second one, the word I use is I'm invested in it. It's and I'm probably 40% through it. My goal is to get it finished by the end of next summer.
Very good. Okay,
and I'm a little over 40% done.
I've heard other authors say that, especially the first one, it's almost like giving birth. It's it's such a process, and it's so much of yourself that goes into it.
That is, I mean, it's. I had a lot there that I was able to reorder my past, or order it up, or straighten it out. And I had a lot in there, and I had a lot of, when I was writing the book, except for the prologue, the first half a dozen chapters take place in metropolitan Arizona, in Tucson and in Phoenix. But in my mind, I couldn't wait to get to the reservation.
Because you knew that's
Chapter 7. I wanted to be on the reservation and just and tell that story. And it is sort of, it's giving birth. I guess giving birth. In writing it, you take a lot of little bitty faults. I mean, you wander off in places that you end up never using, and you spend a lot of time doing it. And the second one seems that I'm able to be more linear and focused about where I'm going with it.
Practice, as I said. So, and this is based on the same character?
It's the same main character. The sequel takes place 12 years later, and it's called Orion's Daughter.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
And,
very good.
And it's my second job. I'm
Yeah.
often up at midnight working on my
Wow.
second job.
Yeah, it's good. But I know that patient care still is your primary focus, and I might see that in meetings that I'm in with you, and kind of bringing it back to the basics. The most important thing is the patient experience.
It is kind of, I know that with healthcare the way it is, and there's a lot of aggravations in it, and a lot of a lot of government stuff, and a lot of insurance stuff, and I know a lot of people, they've had enough, and they're, I mean, in many ways they're done with it when they're in their 50s. But for me, this point right now is probably the most most rewarding, most satisfying part. I still have most of my mental faculties and physical, and I think you grow emotionally in many ways as you get older, and I know several people that have cut down or retired or stopped that were friends of mine, and it's just, to me, this is, I say this often, but it's what makes me feel worthy.
Okay.
And you get to a point in your life, your children grow up,
Right.
you're financially okay,
Mm-hmm.
and I get to give a lot to this job.
Making a difference.
I would hope so.
Yeah, that's, I hear that frequently from the guests that I have on the show, is that that need to make a difference, and that they feel that being in healthcare gives them that opportunity to make a difference.
That quote somewhere I heard was that service is the highest form of human endeavor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And,
yeah. Well, and you see folks, when they're sick or they're pregnant, about to give birth, all aspects. You have a wide range of patients, obviously, that you see.
I love the two things that stand out are the older patients I take care of because I have ongoing relationships with them. Some of them have been out for here 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know a lot about them. I know a lot about their wayward children,
The whole family.
their own trials,
Yeah.
and some of them know a lot about me.
Right? Yep.
And then against that, or next to that, or juxtaposed to it, is the obstetrics, which is kind of a high octane deal. You just I really enjoy taking care of pregnant women.
Mm-hmm.
I like being there for them. I like trying to make the situation as comforting as it can be. I have a kind of a spicy sense of humor that but there's an edge to it. There's a danger to it. You
Sure.
never, I mean, you can never be content or not with because you just don't quite know what's going to
Right.
go on or when
Yeah.
something else is going to happen.
Yeah. We're going to be right back. I want to continue on with that thought. We've got a couple of messages, and so stay tuned because we'll continue this conversation.